Okay, we're on a little adventure here today, JB. Let's start
Yes.
off with where are we? Because this is not your
Where are
shop.
we?
We're somewhere else.
We are in the Bob Ream Dream Garage.
Okay.
Um,
Imagine Injection. Isn't that another name
yes,
for
and
his
that's
world?
Bob's company, and he's designs, builds, and installs fuel injection systems for almost anything, assuming there's a manifold available.
Right.
And manufactures them himself. He does not just distribute stuff. He actually makes it, fits it, and then in certain cases will fly to the destination where the car is going to be built, and then he'll fine tune it because there's a lot of electronics involved.
Okay.
And so it's just complete beginning to end until the thing works properly. Bob's not happy, and he has a lot of happy people
Yeah.
that he's helped over the years. So
Wow.
does a fantastic job. And this car was brought in from Southern California by a very prominent builder because he wants Bob to cast his gaze on it and set up the fuel injection. It has two 4 barrels that look like 4-barrel
Right.
carburetors, but in fact they're fuel injection system.
It's kind of a sneaky fuel
Yeah,
injection.
it's a better look, really. A
Yeah.
lot of traditional guys, and myself being one of them, don't like all this hoses and all that nonsense.
Right.
That has no apparent reason to be there. This is really clean, and we'll see that in just a minute.
Okay, so we're at Bob Ream's place,
Yes.
and now we know why this car is here. Now, what can you tell us about this car? It looks a little bit familiar to me.
Yeah. Chuck DeHeras and I have known each other for a long, long time. I've done a lot of wheels for his cars. His cars are always unique. They're always very well done and well thought out. And unlike some cars that are built in a shop and by other people, Chuck takes a personal hand in this, which is really unusual. He's a very busy guy, but he takes time and he actually participates in especially the engineering of things and actual installation of a lot of the systems. And he's just a very talented guy in a lot of ways.
Okay.
So instead of just hiring it done like some people have to do, he has a variety of people that he works with. I'm one of them. I built the steering wheel. Some other people did the paint, and then Bob Ream is going to do the injection. And Chip Foose built these amazing wheels for this car. It's probably the most beautiful set of wheels I've ever seen on a car, especially given that this car is famous for having wire wheels. Now, in Chip Foose world, nothing is ever sacrosanct.
Right.
And Chuck's the same way. So Chuck went to Chip Foose and said, I want to capture the spirit of the original wheels, but I want to do it in a billet.
Wow.
That's just an amazing request. Okay. How do you pull that off? It was a lot of work. There were some early failures. We're going to look at those wheels, and this is the only set that I think exists and may ever exist because they were made specifically for this car.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, now let's get to what this car is. It's a 1953, right? What is this?
It's a 53 Skylark, and what we've done here is taken the car that sits low already,
right,
as you probably know, and put it on a Roadster Shop chassis. The Roadster Shop, I think this is the very first Skylark they ever did, so there was some learning curve on it, but according to Chuck, he's really happy with the result that they did. It took quite a little while to get it done because it was the first one of its kind. And so what they did was they built a modern chassis to accommodate modern equipment from the front to rear, from the rear end, the drive system, and the front end. All of that's modern. So, but we don't want to lose the spirit of the Skylark, which is a tremendously beautiful car in its own right. And if you notice, the car hasn't been cut, it hasn't been stabbed, wounded, or run over by some well-meaning guy with a blowtorch, okay? And I can't tell you, there are a few of those around, and it's sad to see, because this car is about as close to perfectly designed as you can get. And so Chuck has been very respectful of that, and about 90% of the car is still intact. He just wanted a more modern chassis because he drives his cars.
Yeah.
He's in Southern California, so he has to go 80, 90 miles an hour just to get across the street.
Right.
So This car is obviously fully capable of doing that, and doing it with a modern suspension and brakes and some of the things that really make it more usable. This car will get unveiled probably at the LA Roadster Show. And if everything's on target, and it looks like it is, it'll be ready for that. And
Wow. So yeah, you can see the suspension is completely different.
yeah, it's all brand new and up to date, modern. You can see that I think those are the brake reservoirs back there.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see how clean the execution is. This car is pretty much done.
Wow.
The firewall's clean, like I like to do them.
Mm-hmm.
None of the busyness and none of the silly covers that some people resort to get rid of that.
And as you mentioned, this is a Buick Nailhead, like it's kind of authentic to the car in that sense.
It is, and this is a later Nailhead, and of course this is the big mambo of Nailheads. This is the 425, so it's a very powerful engine in its own right. Creates tremendous torque. We talked about this at Ed Smith's shop about how really this was the forerunner of all motors at General Motors, and they're still building. This fundamental design is still being built. Right. So interesting. It was a pioneering idea. If you look at the configuration, the heads, the pistons, and the way it's configured, it was the beginning of the new generation of General Motors. The thing that's really interesting about the DeHeras Skylark is that he is able to do an incredible job of blending old and new, which is not something that everybody's able to do. You'll quite often see engines with a lot of colors on them because the parts come in a particular color and they just bolt it on the car and can't figure out why it doesn't look right. If you notice, almost everything on this engine is either black or silver. Now, those back to the two-color rule. Obviously, the fuel injection carburetors are not that color, but of course those are going to be covered with an air cleaner. So thematically, the amount of work that goes into doing something like this is staggering. But when you see it, you say, well, there's no big deal. What's the big deal? And the big deal is that you have to take all these parts from all these different manufacturers and make them look like they all came from the same place, which is not that easy. And Chuck has an absolute genius for doing that. And if you notice, all this stuff looks very much at home. There's no clutter. There's no excessive lines. There's no anything that doesn't look like it's purpose-driven. And that's a sign of great design and the ability to take all these divergent parts from all these different people and turn them into what looks like came from the same place, which is not that easy. The fuel injection carburetors appear to be carburetors. In fact, they're fuel injection. If you notice, there's 8 Venturis, which means that we need to get a lot of fuel into this big engine potentially, and so that's why the 2.4 system is present, because this engine likes to drink fuel in copious amounts. So, and the other great thing about fuel injection, of course, is that it will also operate at a very high efficiency, so it doesn't have to ingest a lot of fuel. It can actually be very economical. But when your right foot says I'm going to go somewhere, it's ready to go.
They've got a very beautifully clean custom bracket system for a serpentine belt for all the accessories there. That looks really clean. Yeah. And they've got the linkage system worked out. The yellow tape and the wires are in place simply because they're going to be tied into the fuel injection system. There's a control box underneath the dash that is going to control the fuel injection system. So that's in play right now. That's why those look unfinished. But that's where Bob Ream comes in. He'll build all those systems and supply them without even. You'll never see any of that. Yeah, so, looks like that radiator also kind of has thematically. Yeah, it's obviously brand new. That's not by accident. If you notice, the corners are rounded. Ordinarily, an aftermarket radiator is just square cut. Chuck obviously asked them to do this and got the beautiful welds that are not covered over. They're actually highlighted so that you can see the craftsmanship of a radiator. Very expensive and very hard to build, and they have to be crafted exactly for the opening and for the engine.
So that is become an art form now. You don't just buy them out of a box and stick them in. It doesn't work that way anymore. So especially with a car of this caliber.
And moving along to the interior, what can you tell me about what's modified subtly here?
Okay, well, first the subtle and non-subtle is the steering wheel, which our company built for Chuck, and Chuck very much wanted the style of wheel to be period correct, because it is a beautiful wheel, but it also was flat, and Chuck just wasn't having that. So we designed and built from scratch a wheel that has some cant to the spokes. If you notice, there's a dish to this steering wheel that isn't present on any other Skylark, and that meant we had to scratch build it. And he also hand-picked the steering column. He went through a couple of columns, as he explained it to me, before he came up with something that looked correct. I mean, he's a fanatic for details, and it's obvious that it works, but they kind of disappear, and that's the whole point. You don't want any high here I ams on a good build, and Chuck's just a master at avoiding that sort of thing. The center is the only gold thing on the whole car, and that's a tribute to the original wheel, which was made, and it had the name of the original person who bought it from Buick, and we've inscribed Chuck's name on it. Because this really is Chuck's car now. This is not Buick's car. There's a lot of Buick in it, but there's a lot of Chuck there as well. And he synchronizes the two better than I think anyone I've seen in this particular type of a build. And these are 64 Galaxie seats that are still in play. There's going to be some modifications made to them. He's not happy with the way they look, and they're too tall in his mind, and we want to make some other changes to them. You can see that they work visually. I'm not real thrilled with the color. We're working on that. Maybe change that and do something a little differently. But we did the machine turn panels, as you can see on the doors and the dash, and those add. And those Chuck has a real ability to know when things work and not overcook a build, because and that's a very rare talent. Most people don't know when to stop. They quit taking things off and putting them on, and they get confused. Chuck never has that problem. He knows if it works. That's why the body's not chopped, and a lot of the panels are not cut up and transformed into something ugly. He really understands what worked about the car, and it's almost identically to where the Buick built it when it was first built body-wise. Okay. These wheels are a one-off set that Chip Foose and Chuck DeHeras designed together. Chuck saw a car that Foose had a set of wheels that he'd built, wherein they took his vast design skills and his mechanical skills and built a one-piece wire wheel, which any of you out there who know what that involves, it's mind-numbing to imagine the amount of hours. I think they said there's something like 20 hours of machine time in every single wheel. And if you back that up and put a price to it, you can see that these were not inexpensive. But they got what they wanted, and I think they had to do it twice, is my way I heard it. And just masterful job of doing something that looked like it could have been done at the factory, but it's all in one piece. Spoke wheels are made in lots and lots of pieces, and these, of course, are not. You can see how everything thematically is the same. It's all black and silver. The exhaust, the fuel pumps, just about everything you see, even underneath the car, which doesn't get seen a lot, except by the right people, of course. Like your buddies who can't stand it, they got to get under your car and give you a critique. So it's hard to catch Chuck making a mistake. He just does. Yeah. Everything you see now is stock Buick, Skylark only, and again, that's start with a really good car, finish with a better car. But if you mess with the original design, it's going to hurt the car. These guys were designed by masterful talent. People back in the 50s, they knew what they were doing, and all you can really do is embellish on it. When you try to change it dramatically all you're doing is ruining it. And we've seen Skylarks done that way, and it's heartbreaking, because in their own right, they are beautiful cars. They don't need any restyling, any major restyling. But when you do subtle touches like this, it takes a lot of restraint to, like I said, know when to start and when to stop. And so if you look at this car, it's an absolute story about how to do it and how to not do it. And take some lessons from a guy who's done a lot of these and knows what he's doing. And actually, Chuck does a lot of the work himself. He actually participates in some of it where he feels like he can be of use. He does a lot of the design work, a lot of the ordering, painting of interior components. He also tells me that he also put the electric top system in there. They came with hydraulic, and Chuck didn't want to have a hydraulic system. This is the hydraulic system that Chuck himself put in. It wasn't any fun, according to what he told me. It took a lot of hours because these were designed for a hydraulic system. So he put in all this electric material that came from a kit company. He said he was reasonably happy with what they gave him. But all this has to be re-engineered, redesigned, and installed, and then operated. You notice the pump is in place. That's what pumps the material. You got a controller that is dictating when the left motor is supposed to operate, and when the right motor is supposed to operate, rear, front. So there's 4 of them you have to do, and it's a lot of work. And Chuck is going to help us with another one that we're trying to do right now, which really is kind of neat, because he's going to take the time to share his experience with this one and allow us to save a lot of time and expense doing the next one.
That's excellent. Well, thanks a lot.